Some Americans could feel some pain. That's what President Donald Trump is saying in a new Truth Social post of his newly imposed tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. So let's dive in at the local level and find out how these tariffs are going to affect you and Indiana's economy. That's where we bring in Associate Professor of Economics at IU Northwest, Micah Pollak, joining us here on Daybreak. Thank you so much for waking up with us. Micah, let's just get right to it. How quick could we see these price hikes, do you think?
Very rapidly. If you recall, when there was the threat of tariffs to Colombia, we saw the price of coffee go up and shortages of coffee the next day. So I think you could see a big impact very quickly here with the price of tariffs.
Now, the president's tariffs on Canada could actually impact Indiana jobs specifically. What kind of jobs are we looking at that it could impact?
Unfortunately, pretty much across the board, if Canada, Mexico, and China are our three largest trading partners, and roughly a quarter of all of our economic output is due to global trade. So when you add in a tax or an additional cost that firms must pay anytime a good travels through these countries, that adds a cost at every level of production and manufacturing, and it really affects every company nationally and in Indiana. And these costs, unfortunately, will raise the cost of production for these firms and then ultimately get passed on to consumers.
And you know, one of the things too is it's going to have impact on food prices, gas prices. A lot of people probably wanting to know, how much more am I going to be paying for stuff like food and gas, do you think, Micah?
Yeah, it's hard to say. These things, you know, the prices will definitely go up. And I know economists like to say on one hand this will happen, on the other hand that'll happen. But here there's no debate. Prices will go up. The question is how much. And unfortunately, I think we could see prices going back up to the point where we are talking about inflation again, something that we hopefully thought we'd put behind ourselves.
Now, Canada, Mexico, and China, they have all responded to Trump's tariffs, basically saying that they would put in retaliatory tariffs on American products. What would that mean for, obviously the U.S., but also specifically, do you think, for Indiana's economy?
Well, we produce a lot of agricultural products, and so a lot of the tariffs that Canada has already announced they're putting in place will be on agricultural products. And so that's going to affect farmers and a lot of the more rural community in Indiana. But then you see the cost of these goods factored into everything else, like gasoline is an important component of any production. And so anyone that uses gas to transport their goods is going to face a higher cost, which will result in higher prices for the consumer of their products.
Now, another question, too, a lot of people sometimes say with Trump that this might just be, an action to kind of threaten these other countries to get them, to kind of, as he says a lot of times, quote, pay their fair share. How long do you think Trump will keep these tariffs going, in your prediction?
Well, if you recall from his first administration, which was pre-COVID, so it's been a while since we talked about this, but the tariffs were in place for quite a while there on steel. Here we're seeing widespread tariffs, not just on individual goods. And tariffs are useful when you target them and you're very deliberate and you use them strategically. But when you have a widespread tariff like this on everything from your three largest trading partners, it's really hard to find any economic upside of this other than, the biggest impact being higher prices for consumers.
It's going to be interesting. We're going to keep on it, and we'll see what President Trump does and if he sticks with it. Associate Professor of Economics at IU Northwest, Micah Pollak, thank you so much for waking up and joining with us on Daybreak.